I try to be extra careful, especially when doing updates, that I clearly mark what is a rumor versus confirmed fact. I know some people are a little annoyed at that, especially when Walken was chosen as the Emperor Shaddam, and it appears now he's definitely been picked, but again, I try to be cautious. So, without any further delay, it's been reported that Margot Fenring, who is very prominent in the books, but in the later half, is going to be played by Leah Seydoux, French actress. Again, at this stage, it's a rumor. We don't know for sure, but the production is about to start in just a few weeks, so it does make sense that they're wrapping up the casting of some of the other major characters who will appear in part two. And the Fenrings technically appear a little bit earlier in the book, but it's a little fuzzy, but they're definitely much bigger part of the plot and the later half of Dune the novel, and they're usually not used in the adaptations. As far as I remember, Lynch does not have them at all. They're just completely cut out. Some other adaptations do have them, but they're usually considered very minor characters, although they are critical to the plot in several different ways. Now, what do I think of this? Well, it's definitely a good choice, and it makes a whole lot of sense, and is very probable given that Denis, although he's not technically French, right, he's from Canada, he is French, but not French as in France, but French as in French Canadian. And he actually almost hired a French actress for Chani, and he was not going to go with Zendaya, but ultimately he chose Zendaya. He almost went with a French Algerian singer. It does seem to make sense that the cast has been overall very international, even though most of them are American and British. He is trying to cast people from different parts of the world, and I think pretty practically to sort of have something attractive to sell to different markets. And Sadu is very attractive. She's very talented. She's been in a huge number of films, from Mission Impossible to most lately in a David Cronenberg film. But I would have to say, to be a skeptic, that she probably has sometimes gotten roles not just because she's very pretty or very talented, but she sort of has some connections to the movie industry. She apparently comes from like a movie family. This could be a favor being done or a little bit more corrupt. Again, that's just a fact of the film industry. A lot of favors are done behind the scenes. But I do think this is being credibly done for reasons of merit. But again, just want to be honest, it could be reasons of backroom dealing or whatever. It is what it is in terms of getting financing or being more attractive to certain film markets. And she's a French actress and is probably well known much more in her native country than she is here. She's well known, but she's not a superstar. So it makes sense in terms of the budget, the star power, the kind of film she's in. She kind of goes back and forth between the very big budget films and much more independent films. So it also fits her profile. And she does fit more or less who I think Fenring should be, because she's supposed to be a very seductive, very beautiful woman who basically seduces Fade, and they sort of have a fling because it's being engineered by the Bene Gesserit, and she herself is a Bene Gesserit. I guess the real question now turns to the Count. If they're going to have her, they're probably going to have the Count. I mean, it could be Denis is just going to have her and not have the Count, but I think that would be very unlikely. If he does do that for legitimate reasons, or even just artistic reasons, the infamous Layet Kynes gender swap, that would probably produce a big row. And again, I didn't like the idea of changing Layet Kynes' gender, but it doesn't really destroy the story, but I didn't think that was necessary. But I think in all likelihood, now that we have her, we're going to have Hasimir Fenring. But I'm going to have to do that in another video because I don't know what they're going to go for, because they've departed from the book in a lot of ways with the casting of other people. People who are described as ugly in the books, they're not ugly. They have very good looks. People are described as short or tall, dark skinned, light skinned. They've sort of played around with the canon of the books. I don't expect it to be completely accurate to the books, which may be good, because Hasimir is a bit of a handful that he's got to be very combative. He's an ally to the Emperor Shaddam, and he's technically should be very old, but they've gone very old with Walken. However, they don't strictly have to follow the books there, right? Because ages work a little weird in Dune, that somebody who looks very old, biologically, they could be very fit. So I'd imagine that the Count should be some actor from the 40s to 50s, at the most early 60s. That still gives you a lot of choices. And I would assume Denny is probably going to pick a male actor he's worked with before, but he's never worked with Leah, as far as I know. So he may go for somebody new. And that's where we are with some of the casting updates with Dune. I think the next step will probably be beyond the Fenrings is who are the Fremen, if he is going to pick some prominent Fremen. And that'll be interesting to watch. All right, so stay tuned. Thanks for listening.